Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In today's session, I'm going to discuss about at the rate path variable and at the rate request param annotations in detail, and we'll see what is the difference between these two annotation. We will try to understand with some small example. So without get delay, let's get started. So at the rate request param is an annotation is used to extract data from the query parameters in the request URL. So basically in the URL, we used to pass the query parameter, right? It's kind of a key value where you define your key equal to then value, followed value after the question mark. So this pattern we can implement using at the rate param. Okay. So that Spring will understand if there any value is provided after the uh, question mark. So that variable need to be defined in your REST configuration. Okay, means when you design a method for endpoint, you need to define the proper field name and other things. Okay, and so at the rate path variable, as annotation is used to extract data from the URL path. So it is basically it's part of an URL. It's just a placeholder. So in that placeholder, you can whenever you request any data, you can pass some value dynamically. So that based on that, it will provide you the resource. Okay. So the difference between these two is a request at the rate request param. You can provide a like additional in the query parameter. It's not part of your URL pattern. It's like it's part of your pattern, but not exactly the path of your URL that you're going to define in the get mapping or post mapping. It is like it will part of in the query param. But whereas path param is like a placeholder for placeholder in the URL. So based on that, it will provide you the resource. And one more quick thing, just need to understand there is one more at the rate query parameter annotation present in the REST annotation world, right? So what is the difference between at the rate query param and request param? So the behavior is similar, but query param is a part of a JAX RS implementation. So whereas at the rate request param is a part of Spring MVC framework. Okay, so that is part of a Spring library. So that is the other difference. So let me quickly show you one working code. I mean, just a demo to understand better. Let's switch to IDE. Okay, so here I've added two endpoints. One is using at the rate path param, and one other one is at the rate request param. So at the rate path param, this is the placeholder that I'm going to within the proper base. Just you're going to provide one identification like a variable name. So that name going to be used as a variable in your code, right? So here I've provided my ID. So basically I designed this in endpoint to find one user based on the ID. For say I have a list of user, I want to find one user data. So then I'm providing some identity to this URL. So through this variable, and with help of this, I'll get the information. Okay. So now just I'm returning some dummy string. So for actual code, it will be like a ID. Then based on that ID, we're going to perform some iteration and uh, find the respective user data details, and then that will your responding back your request, right? So this path param is part of your path. Okay. So let's see the other one, request pa param. So basically, the request param is not part of your URL. Means when you define your API in your REST, it's not part of the mapping URL. It's like it's invisible from here. So at the time of requesting, you need to provide the query in terms of like with the question mark and then key value, key equal to value. So that is how we used to provide the key value in the REST. Okay, and the difference here is this is a mandatory one. If you're not passing the iterate path variable, will like If the value is not present in the URL, then it will throw a 404 error. Okay. Whereas the request map, request param. So if you can make it as optional, right? If I can provide the key value as a mandatory, or else you can make it as optional, right? So for by default, the required is true, means it's mandatory. You need to provide. If you are not providing, it will throw up 400 bad request error. Okay, so if I make this as false, then it's an optional. If even if I'm not providing, it will not throw any error. It will consider as my string as a null, and then we need to have this condition. If the ID is null, then do this, or else do this, like that. And default value, for say for some scenario we are not providing any value. So that scenario, some value need to be assigned, right? So some default value to that variable, correct? So that time we use this attribute default value equal to some value. So this will be executed when you are not providing the value for ID. So let's see the example of request param first, and then we'll see the path param next. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this service. So once it is done, I'll switching to Postman, and here let's see, I'm going to provide ID equal to not one or not, okay, fine, not one, right? So let's see, I got my value. Here is a let's say 444 value. Okay. So now some cases I don't need this query. By default, it has some IDs defined in the configuration, right? So it takes 000 as my default. Okay, friends, this is where this is how the path variable works. Sorry, request param works. Let's see the other one, path variable. So for now, let's comment out this and enable this code. Okay, fine. Let's start the servers. So now we are going to provide as part of the URL, right? So let's switch to Postman and slash 101 or 01. Any ID, that's fine. It's not demo, right? So it is returning. So like say if I'm not providing this value, so what it does, it will throw 404 not found, because your placeholder value is mandatory. If you're not providing it, it will throw a 404 error. Right, friends? I hope you understood this difference between these two annotations. So I'll catch you in the next video. Until then, thanks. Bye. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more great content. I post new videos every frequent, so you don't want to miss out. Thank you.